Well, hello, my friends, both present and those who are going to be tuning in later. I'm very excited to be focusing on how we can support our planetary health. And I love how Michelle has been recreating titles instead of preventing climate change, which is already too late. But, how can we be with what is happening in a way that allows us to engage, rather than sinking into despair? And so I'm really delighted about having moving from so more of an individual focus, like have you recycled this week, and don't drop that, don't get things that are in plastic and all. For me it's had a kind of a vigilance and also a kind of a roaring kind of being mad at people and littering and all of these things that I get really so how can we collectively join our energy so that it's easier for each of us? We are using systems that allow us to take advantage of our technology, but it's in service of our collective health. And so, I just recently met Michelle Ellison, and I got so excited about her project that she's been engaged in. I thought would be an encouraging topic for those of us who are wondering about giving attention to the most important context. We've been, having all of this stuff with democracy and how people are treating each other, but so little on how we're treating the body on which we all rely. The big body, of our planet. And so, and I know that you've been up to this for a long time, Michelle. So the first thing I'd love to ask you about is how the heck did you end up, focusing on this in your life? What was kind of your journey or your path to ending up here?
Thank you, Katie, and nice to be with all of you. Um, so my journey actually started when I was young. As a child, I kind of forgotten that I really had this through line of environmentalism from a young age, and it was about 12 years ago, no, 10 years ago. We have two children, a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old. And it was after the birth of our second child 10 years ago that I had this, what I consider to be my climate awakening. And I think I'd kind of forgotten how much I had cared about the environment my entire life, but it was really kind of confronting the reality of this ecological devastation and this loss. And I was really confronted with a despair I hadn't ever experienced in my life, a sadness for what we humans are doing to this beautiful paradise of a planet. And so it kind of came by surprise that I had come across this article that really just shook me to my core. I wasn't anticipating this coming, but I today see that as a gift. It was a really hard moment in time, but it really has taken me and given me a purpose and motivation to really show up in the world. So I was in this kind of state of sadness and despair for almost a week. I felt like I was on the Titanic and there was this iceberg ahead of me where I kind of could see what climate change was doing and all of the toll that we are taking on the environment. And I was afraid that I wasn't going to be able to kind of shake this fear off, and that I'd be kind of stuck in this despair. But thankfully, after about a week, that lifted, and I realized that the antidote to my despair was taking action. There's no one has a crystal ball, and so we don't know how this is all going to play out. But I felt this personal responsibility. I just brought in two new babies into this world, a 2-year-old and an infant. And I think this mama bear instinct was alive, and all to care not only for their future, but for all life on the planet. So it was this deep caring
Mm-hmm.
that told me I need to step up. I need to do more. I had assumed the higher ups, the adults in the world somewhere were taking care of this massive problem. And then I realized that not enough was being done. So it was really upon me to do what I could to really be the change. And so my husband and I, we committed to making individual changes in our own lives to decarbonize. So what can we do to reduce our footprint? So we got solar panels, we started composting, we started being more mindful about our consumption and buying choices. We switched out our gas car for an electric vehicle. I mean, this has all been over the last 10 years. It wasn't immediate, but it's been a commitment to do our own individual part. We fully electrified our home, which means getting off all gas burning appliances to run on clean energy sources. So we've taken that personal responsibility, which feels really good and empowering. What can we do from the small things to the larger things that take more of an investment and a commitment? So, but I also realized those small actions matter. Each of us plays a role, and if no one did anything, we wouldn't get anywhere. So all those small drops add up to a larger bucket. But then I also realized where we really need more action is at the policy level, at the local government, city level, at the county, at the state level, and certainly at the national, international level. We need cooperation around this. And so I started showing up at our local city council because that's where I have access. That's where I can get engaged easily. And that's where policy is getting made. And so I had never really paid attention to local government before. And so I got to know who my city council members are and how city government works, and started advocating for climate policies, for clean energy policies. What can our community do? And we're a small town. I live in the town of Ojai, which is in Southern California. Same with Katie. We're just a couple miles apart. We're neighbors. And so while we're a small town of just 8,000 people, what we do here and what happens in other communities does have an impact. It can have a ripple effect. We can serve as an example, a model for other communities. For Ojai is just a small town, but we have nearly 1 million visitors. It's a tourist town. So what we do here can expand to other communities and serve as an example. So I saw that potential really by working locally with my local government. And so so within a couple years of starting this, there was a specific opportunity that came to my town to join this new clean energy provider. It was a public new electricity provider. It was competing with the investor-owned utilities. It was providing a new choice. And so our city had the opportunity to join this new energy provider. And I saw the opportunity to get more clean energy, and to have more local control and community and reinvestment. There were a lot of benefits of joining this new public agency. So I advocated for our city council to join, and they voted unanimously to join, which was really exciting. And I took the time to educate them and get back to them if I didn't have the answers to their questions. I didn't need to be this expert. I think that was part of kind of overcoming some of my fears. How do I do this? What if I don't know everything? And I was able to just be okay with not knowing everything and still showing up. So if I didn't have the answers to all the questions, I would help get that information. So that was part of my learning process in advocacy, that I don't have to be the expert all the time, but showing up matters. So I advocated, and they voted unanimously to join this new energy provider. And then shortly thereafter, they had another significant choice to make. And that I'm about to tell you, that was the spawning of this effort, which I call Green by Default, which is now, as of a few months ago, a nonprofit. So we have, as a community, the choice to decide how much renewable energy to make as our default. The default is what everyone in our community is automatically enrolled in. So there were 3 tier choices. We could have 35% renewable, 50% renewable, or 100% renewable. And so what I really saw was, wow, if Ojai, my town, could join at 100% renewable, all 8,000 of us would be automatically enrolled in clean energy. And individuals had the freedom to say, no, I don't want to be in that. They have the freedom. Nothing is forced on anyone. But by making it easy and automatically enrolling everyone in that clean energy. It just, we're getting so much more participation than if we didn't. So I saw that note, and I met with my city council members, and they voted unanimously to do that, which
Mhm.
was huge, because in California at the time, this was in 2018, only one small town had ever done this. So we were the second town to do this. It was like charting new territory. And so then I was like, well, what other advocates are showing up in other communities in my region? And so I started showing up at city council meeting after city council meeting at other communities. The city of Ventura, many of you are, I'm sure, not from this region, but we have, cities as 100,000, 200,000 people. LA County was part of this. That's 1 million people. So I was going city by city in my region with this commitment to leave no city behind. So I really was this conviction of like, at least let me present this opportunity. Um, and within that first year of 2018, we enrolled 10 cities at 100% renewable energy. And it was just so exciting. Like, oh my, there was just such, I would say, magic behind this, because it was a surprise to everyone that
Mhm.
so many communities were ready to take this leap to
Yeah.
clean energy. And hundreds of thousands of people moved over to clean energy virtually overnight by this decision. And so it was really a this green by default is, in my 10 years of advocacy, it really is what I see as one of the most powerful levers, that is like one decision, and it moves entire populations all at once. So starting in 2018, there were 10 cities. Since that time, that number has grown to 36 cities across California. 3 million people. 10 billion pounds of greenhouse gas emissions have been reduced, because communities have said, we are ready to embrace the clean energy transition. We don't want to wait. The state of California has a goal to get to 100% clean energy by 2045. And these 36 cities have said, we are going to get there 2 decades ahead of schedule. We're ready for it now. And so this journey has been so encouraging and hopeful. We're confronting so much like bad news, and I find myself, just any day I turn on the news, it's just a lot to take in, and there's just such hope. There are good things happening.
Mhm.
Real progress is happening. And so that's why I'm really excited
Mhm.
to share with you all, because I think it's important for us to balance out the bad news with the good news. And this has just been so encouraging to see. Also, kind of across the political spectrum here in California at the local government level, we've had Republicans vote to do this. We've had independents, we've had Democrats. So there's common ground we're finding, which I also find so encouraging, that this doesn't have to be
Mhm.
a divisive issue, that people can find common ground on. We want clean air. We know pollution is bad for us. We want more energy independence. So there are, even if we have differences of opinion on climate change, that we can come together for the value of clean energy and a healthier future. So that's been really encouraging here in California to see. Um, and so last year, I decided, for several years now, I've been thinking about, should I turn this into a nonprofit? And last year, I decided to finally do that, confronting some of my doubts and fears. Can I really make a go of this? But my hope by doing this is to expand the impact, to be able to reach more communities in California and beyond. There are so many other communities throughout the United States, and then even internationally. How this is a model that can be used elsewhere and
Mhm.
scaled. So that's where there's just so much opportunity that I'm excited to bring this to. And so yeah, that's been my journey.
Super. Well, just beautifully articulated too, and very relatable. So before we go on, I'd love to have Michelle, our Michelle, put in the chat a way that people can contact you. The Green by default just so that they've got that and they can pull it off of the chat to be in contact. So before we go on, I saw that Kate had a question that had come through in the chat, and also wanted to see if there were any other questions. So Kate, could you say your question again? And I don't know if Michelle can answer it, but we can go for it.
Sure. Thank you. What a brilliant idea. And I love so often the default, like negative building, things like that, where you get sucked in sometimes without even knowing it, and it has such a negative impact,
Right.
and in many cases environmentally too. So this is, everything from the title to the premise. I love it. I am curious to know which sources of energy you include in renewable and clean, because there's uh, differing thought on that, and I'd love to hear what you've landed on.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So renewable, my effort is really focused on renewable energy, and not clean or carbon free, because there is a distinction as you're getting it. So renewable really is the gold standard. That is solar, that is wind, that is geothermal, small hydro. It doesn't include large hydro or nuclear, or so those are other carbon free. So renewable is really those other kind of gold standard clean energy sources.
Oh, I am so heartened to hear that, because I'm up in Canada,
Mhm.
and often we hear about clean energy and nuclear is included. And long ago, I did an internship with the Nuclear Fuel Cycle Division of Environment Canada. And there continues to be no permanent way to store those fuel rods. And they have half-lives that are millions of years long. So, if they leak, it's deadly. And so to hear, solar, wind, hydro, geothermal, that is fantastic. And this might be going too much into the weeds, but I am curious, like geothermal, my understanding is that's tapping into the core energy of the earth, that we witness in geysers and hot springs and things like that. And I'm just wondering, like that, perhaps we don't have to worry about it in our lifetime, but I imagine that is finite at some point, because it's not
Yeah.
like it's being recharged. Is that something that is discussed at all in geothermal circles? And again, if this is too much into the weeds, I'm
Yeah,
fine to
I'm
back
not
off.
that I'm not as familiar with geothermal and I know new technologies are emerging around geothermal, but I don't have the specifics. But that's a good question. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, no problem. I think what you're doing is amazing. So
thank
carry
you.
on.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, super, super. So one of the things we thought, well, any other questions or either from the chat, or does anybody have any other thing that yeah, Mary, I thought you might.
Yeah, well, I live in Boulder, Colorado, and we
She
did
lives in
try
the Republic of Boulder.
the Republic, also known as the Republic of Boulder, and we did have an initiative to create community-based energy, but our current energy provider, which is Xcel, filed a lawsuit against the city. And I mean, we as taxpayers invested millions of dollars in trying to create our own local energy system. But what I'm curious about is, as you have gone out and had these conversations, I mean, because here solar, oh my gosh, we could do solar, and of course Excel is, you know, saying how great their wind production is and all of that, which is great, but there are some really big grid issues here with wind and power outages and wildfires. So, what I'm curious about is, as you've gone into all of these other communities, how have you convinced, the local civil um, governance entities to I think 100% is amazing. So how have you done that so that they can just land right on that right away? And have they had any pushback as we did? Have any of them had any pushback as we did from these gigantic energy suppliers. So those would be my questions.
Yeah, thank you. So similar to what I think was trying to occur in Boulder, in forming a community energy agency, that's these communities that are able to do this have already joined one. So what we have in California is community choice aggregation, CCAs, and several states have them, about 9 states. I actually don't know if Colorado has allowed for them. So California state has allowed for community choice aggregators to form. And that's local governments banding together to provide a community energy provider to compete with the big utility companies like you have there. And so for cities to be able to move to 100% renewable energy, they have to be part of a CCA. So the first step is getting those cities to join. And then once they've joined, then they can make that decision to go to 100% renewable. We didn't have that ability to do that with the existing investor-owned utilities. That just was never an option. It still is not an option. Mm-hmm. So cities that aren't part of the CCAs don't have that choice to move to 100% renewable. So that really is the first step that we've had to,
let me just interrupt for a second, because I think that's so important. What you're saying is that, and I'm imagining that lots of people in their communities don't even realize that they have that possibility to do this aggregate so that they can move to renewable. Yes. And of course, that would be in the favor of the big companies to keep that all very mysterious and, impossible to do. And so but as I'm listening to you, I can imagine how that's been possible for you because of your way of presenting this and, the ease of, doing that. So I appreciate the question about the what's the first step and then what's the next step. So please continue. You're muted now.
Sorry, I just got an interruption, about a potential power outage. So hopefully my power doesn't go out while we're on the call.
Okay. How auspicious.
I know, okay. Good point. Yeah, that's kind of funny, actually. Sorry, hang on one second. Sorry again.
Sure, that's fine. That's fine. Life.
It wouldn't be a very good advertisement if she did lose power.
I would be right. I love it.
Oh, that is so funny. So yes, my husband just alerted me that we got an alert from the utility company that the power is supposed to go out today. Kitty, do you have that alert too? I don't know, because we're in
no, but this lets me let you know that I have now, because I'm going to list some of the things that I've done over the years in our house. And one of them is that we have whole house backup solar batteries now. So the last time we had an outage here, it didn't affect us at all. It was seamless, which was so exciting to me that this technology actually provides consistency and, in a sense of being able to engage in the world and something that you can count on. So the power outages, I think, are going to, they're going to get much more common. And so it's one of those things that's very appropriate that it would come up today. So dealing with, energy is going to become more unreliable, and how can each of us take responsibility, and the act of acting collectively is so powerful to have that resource that we can all rely on. So how are you doing, Michelle? Are you available again?
Yeah, I'm available still. I'm just trying to get a hotspot ready to go if it goes out, so that if I have to rejoin, I'll just join on a hotspot.
Well, what's really wonderful is that you've introduced, and have we got her information in the chat just in case that everything goes? So we've got the most important stuff, and now we can expand into some of the things that you've noticed with regard to what people might be able to do next who are living in different areas. What would you recommend that would be their next easiest steps to begin to engage with a community-based energy production?
Yeah, so on my website on Green by Default, I share where the opportunities are, which states have
Great.
this opportunity right off the bat. So you can visit my website Green by Default and find if your state even has community trace energy. And if so, then you can begin advocating there. If you don't, some states are in process of looking at this, but it's kind of a little further back because they're still in that exploratory stage. So it might take a little longer. And then I would say, even if community choice isn't available to you now, there are other ways of getting involved. And I would encourage you to connect with community members. Or do you have an environmental organization in your community that you can, if you're not plugged in, maybe get plugged in with? Start showing up at city council meetings, seeing if there are opportunities for your community to take action. And so those are the opportunities I see, even if you don't have community choice energy available to you. There are still ways to advocate for environmental initiatives. If maybe you really care about regenerative agriculture or water catchment or native plants. I mean, it doesn't have to just be clean energy. That happens to be my area of interest because it has a big impact. But they all matter. All environmental initiatives are worthwhile and valuable. Anything to protect our planet. So I would say find what lights you up the most, what you care about naturally, and follow that, and find ways to work with others to create that positive change.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. So, anything else popping up for our group? We have some people who are not showing up, but they're here. So, if there are any questions that come through the chat, we'll do our best to address those. I wanted to the other day. I found a picture of our home. We've lived in our home in Ojai for almost 25 years, and I found a picture from probably at least 15 years ago. And we have almost an acre here, and our front yard was grass, and our backyard was grass and concrete. And so I should pull up a picture for you all. So now our front yard is entirely pollinators. Our front yard and our backyard are pollinators and succulents, and we've used no pesticides or chemicals on our property, in the last 25 years. And so when we had our last rains, what I noticed was that we'd been in drought for a very long time, and when we had rains, all of the rain went in. We had no runoff. So our yard is now just flourishing and beautiful, and we have all of the pollinators and the butterflies, and so that's very exciting. But in addition to that, each year, one of the things I want to recommend to each of you is that you select something, like this year. This is the environmental change that I'm going to make, in the place where I have control. So that's one of the ways that I have countered my environmental despair is what we call sorting the two files. What do I actually have control over? And so every year I've done something here. So we now have, because we have one of these sort of cottage houses, and our hot water heater was way over in the garage, and our shower was way over at the other end. And so when I would run the water, it would take 5 minutes at least for the water to heat up. So now we have a on-demand hot water heater, and then that water from our shower and our bath is in a gray water system that we put in, and so that goes out into the front yard. We have a driveway that we inherited, and I was going to take it out, and then I realized, well, what are we going to do with all the concrete? Because then we have to take care of that. So what I did was have them put, we have little slats regularly where it's filled with gravel, so that water goes down into the ground, so that doesn't get run off either. And so every year we've done something. So we have complete solar. We just had our solar backup batteries, which is very exciting for me because we were early adopters. So we had solar backup batteries, but then sometimes the last time that the electricity went off, they worked fine. But then when the electricity came back on again, all of our solar things went off. So we went, no, this doesn't work. So we were able to get these solar backup batteries, and the sense of just the sense that I had of my own sort of angst and what can I do, settle, like, okay, this is something I'm doing, and this is something I'm doing, and that and also giving attention to noticing what the birds and the different critters that are around, how are they doing, how do they seem to be doing, and taking care of our trees. We have here in Ojai, you cannot cut oak trees without a permit. And so we have this whole sense. I live in a part of Ojai where the roads are designed around the trees. So we don't have really any straight roads in this part of Ojai, in what's called the arbolada, which is trees. And so we have these big oaks. And so part of what I think of is that I'm a steward of this little plot of land, and doing my best to care for all of the critters. We have rabbits, and because now that we have this wonderful place, we have lots of critters who come to visit because it's a very, inviting place. So what I've found also on a daily basis is I have no plastic in our house. So we have, and even we have compostable. And we started doing this years ago, before that was really well designed. But even in our trash bins, that's all compostable. Everything, and of course we compost, which I recommend for everybody. And when I was able to, our compost, when we were able to put it on the yard, it was so exciting. We made compost and we actually used it, and it actually works. There's this sense of you can be your own little farmer. So when I travel, when I go to stores or I'm going to restaurants, and for years I say, no straw, please, no straw. I get these. So all of these little things that you do, bringing your container. A lot of restaurants now have recyclable, but a step up from that is to bring your own containers. And so I've been doing that for years. I have those little collapsible silicone, and so when I take something from the restaurant, I bring it home, and then I'm just doing my best to. When I recycle clothes. And the latest thing is that there's an actual cartridge that you can attach to your washing machine that collects the microplastics from your clothes, and then you send that back. It's a circular. They'll take and take care of the microplastics, and then send you more cartridges. So this is a very cool thing that I also feel very happy about. So I keep an eye on what are some of the newer things that we can do, and I share that with friends, and so when I do that, I realize I am doing my best. But then when I met Michelle, and there's this whole other level of, we can combine our energies together, so much more powerful, and and a lever, what has been called, the trim tab moves, the high leverage moves that you can make that will really make a difference. So that I found just very exciting. So those are some of the things I'm doing. And if you have innovative things that you've been doing or that you know about, it'd be great to put them in the chat so other people can, take advantage of that. But the main thing, I wanted people to really be able to get an idea that it's not just each of us in our own little silos doing our best, and taking out our recycling and all of that. So that was part of why I am excited to have you here. So does anybody have any other questions that they'd like to ask Michelle at this point? All right, super.
May I ask a question?
Of course. Yeah, sure.
And again, it might be out of scope. Being in Canada, I'm wondering if you know of any comparable initiatives up here, or if the CCAs that you were referring to, I checked on the map, like understandably you've got, the US. Do you know if there's something comparable here in Canada?
I don't know off the top of my head, so I haven't looked into Canada yet. But I would love to know, and if there's opportunity there, that'd be great to explore it. So if you happen to come across information, or if I do, I'd love to exchange information.
Perfect. Will do.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Oh, excellent. And I'm seeing some things in the chat. Is there anything in there, Michelle, Michelle Yasuda, it looks like some resources.
Yeah, I think it's resources.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great,
Yeah.
great. Well, let's pull those off for us too, so we make
Yeah.
sure we've got them. Yeah,
Sounds great.
super. So, so Michelle, tune in and see, is there more that you would like to let us know about, or challenges or personal experiences, or things that we might do? Because I was thinking about doing an FACT with people, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But I wanted to just hand it back over to you to see if there is more that you'd like to add.
Just that I do have a list of actions that I've compiled
Yes.
of actions that individuals can take. Right now, I'm not able to screen share because I'm on my phone. But Michelle has that list, which she can share with everyone, or maybe even pull up the prior version. That's probably fine, Michelle, if you want to
Okay,
share that.
why don't I
Yeah,
do
why
that?
don't you screen share that?
Yeah,
Because I think that would be lovely because you'll
yeah,
think, oh, I didn't even think of that. And oh,
yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, this is just a and what I the newest version that I wanted to share. I just made a small tweak in the title, which oftentimes I'm thinking about stopping. What can we do to
right.
stop climate change? And yes, we need to do that, but I think there's an importance of also like what's the positive, and I think more of it's like protecting planetary health. What can we do? Like there's more positive
Yeah, that's
charge to it.
beautiful.
So yeah, I wanna tweak this this flyer that I created years ago to be a little bit more positive, forward looking. So just a minor tweak in the title. So the version that you all will get will have that. But so what I did, and I love if anyone has any additional ideas to add to this, please send them my way or in the chat, share them. So I kind of categorize large categories of what can we do at an individual level to reduce our impact. So within energy, we have, that's an enroll in 100% renewable energy plan. That's what we've been talking about. Converting your gas appliances to electric that are much more efficient and can run on clean energy. So we've done that in our home. We changed our heater to electric heat pumps. We changed our gas stove to an induction stove, which performs beautifully and doesn't have all the toxic emissions coming with it. Solar panels and battery backup, like Katie has. Improving our home energy efficiency. So that's actually something we still have to do at our home, is get the double pane windows. We have original old windows that are very leaky, and so it's not very insulated. So that would reduce our energy use in our home. So that's kind of on our to-do list. And insulation and replacing, just sealing leaks, and there are home energy audits, programmable thermostats, switching our light bulbs, washing clothes, drying, in cold water versus hot. These are all small things that we can do. Line drying our clothes. And then transportation's another big one. Can we drive less, walk, bike more? All these alternative public transportation, switching to EVs when it makes sense, and flying less. Food and water, eating less meat, more plants, growing our own food, buying locally and supporting regenerative agriculture. There are a lot of, benefits of that. Composting, conserving water. And there's all different things. I don't know if I should go through all these individually. I guess we have a little
No,
time.
this is fine. Go ahead and list them. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
wasn't sure if that's helpful or not. Okay. And then consumption and waste, buying less, being mindful about our buying choices, and that's something I need to work on. Do I really need this, or is it a want, or am I trying to keep up with the latest fashions? That's a hard hard thing to grapple with when we're in such a kind of materialistic society. And so just being mindful about what we're buying, where we're buying it from, what kind of products it's using, are they sustainably procured and manufactured? Um, Reducing, reusing, repurposing, recycling, buying products with less packaging waste.
Hmm.
So much even of our produce. I go to Trader Joe's. I love Trader Joe's, but like a lot of their stuff still comes in you can't buy one zucchini, buy a pack with all this plastic on it. So
Hmm.
um, supporting companies that are committed to environmentally sustainable practices, using reusable cups, containers, and bags, like Katie was mentioning. You can bring
Hmm.
that to a restaurant to take your to go, or your leftovers. Funding, divesting from fossil fuels and banks that fund fossil fuels. That's still on my to-do list. I've been
Hmm.
trying, I get a little intimidated by doing, how do I do this? How do I take my money out of the big banks or the wherever my savings are invested,
Hmm.
and make sure that they're not supporting fossil fuel practices? Uh, Donating to organizations working on climate. So
Hmm.
that's another way we can kind of put our money toward to good use.
Yeah,
Then
that's one of the
trees.
big ones that I have. I support climate. That's there are several climate uh, organizations that I support on a monthly basis, and that also gives me a sense of I'm contributing to bigger, organizations that have more power collectively.
Mhm. Then for trees, planting more trees because they sequester carbon. They're the lungs of the earth, and we've taken away so many trees from our planet. So the more we can kind of replenish and preserve the trees that we do have, and being aware of the products that are contributing to deforestation. Um, and we use recyclable toilet paper because other toilet papers are using trees. That I just think that's one small mindful buying choice, even with toilet paper. um, so these are kind of the individual actions that I've come up with. But then the next level is like advocacy. So that's like using our voice, speaking up, talking with family and friends, neighbors, and others about the environment, about our concerns, about the actions we can take together, advocating for change at the city council or the board of supervisors. That's where we have easy access to show up. And then holding our government officials accountable, and the fossil fuel industry, and getting involved, plugged in with climate organizations. And then I think what I didn't include in this whole list is these are like externally focused, and I've reflected on it. And this doesn't also include the kind of self-care. I think that's also really important to make sure we don't burn out, that we can kind of replenish
Hmm.
our reserves. So I think that's an important part of this. The individual action could be just tending to ourself, and finding joy and peace through different practices, so that we can more be more resilient
Mm.
in the face of these challenges. So that's what I would conclude with. If anyone have any ideas of things that are missing from this list off the top of your head?
I'm sure there are, and it's not coming to me right now, but it's a great, oh yes, who I'm seeing, yeah, who gives a crap? I just ordered my latest toilet paper and paper towels from Who Gives a Crap. Have been doing bamboo for ages and ages. And as more things have become available, I think as each of us make different choices that are sustainable, that really does have an impact. It looks like it's our own little individual choices, but but as we're sharing that with others, it really does ripple out, and our own individual choices join with others. And it also, for me, it gives me a sense of I am doing what I can do, and it counters the despair, particularly when some of the government choices are so retro right now. But keeping an eye on not only our choices, but our being in relationship with others who are also advocating gives us a sense of our collective power, which I think is so important for all of us, to be able to have a sense of I can do something myself, but also collectively, and gives us a chance to advocate with others.
Yeah, that's been one of, I think, the most beautiful things to come of this is the friendships I've made in connecting with people around this shared purpose. And they're just beautiful connections that I wouldn't have made otherwise. So,
Yes.
yeah, working
Yes.
together really just feels so good for the
Uh,
soul, it really. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that we're not just, sunk in,
Mhm.
it's hopeless and helpless, because it's really not. And we also know, I think one of the things that Paul Hawken has been saying for years and years is that it's not going to, change is not going to come from the government. And that there, like in his book, Blessed Unrest, there people at a local level are, everybody is engaging and one of the things that I've been encouraged by in recent years is I can really see that people in their own communities are engaging in what can we do, and then they do it. And so that it's a whole different way of coming into community also,
Mhm.
to be in community with our larger, with the animals and the plants, and all of the systems that we're a part of. So, I think it gives us a sense of, I'm not going to put my attention on how awful it is, but I'm going to put my attention on where the openings are and where the possibilities are. So, and I also really appreciate, Michelle, your the clarity, calmness about all of this, rather than hysteria of that. When I am actually doing something, I think it generates the possibility, and that people can see and feel that, and then are like, oh, okay, I can do something also. And then we break out of that hopeless helpless trance.
Yes, yes. And what I've also found helpful in the last years, especially, and I know it's something near and dear to your heart, Katie, is just movement, dance. I've really been excited by ecstatic dance. This the last 4 years, Katie has been responsible for bringing that to our community in Ojai, and it's been such a gift
Yeah.
to be able to have on a weekly basis and a way to release that stuck energy and that fear and just kind of connect with community, um, in a beautiful way. So things like dance or spending time in nature. We have beautiful nature right here in Ojai. Walking in the on the trails here and being with the birds and the plants, and just these are ways that I'm finding really helpful to, in addition to taking action,
Hmm.
to just nurturing myself, to keep me from falling into despair and sadness and fear. So thank you, Katie, for providing that for our community. It's just been such a gift and really healing for me. So thank you.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Music and dance have united communities for thousands of years. And one of the things I love about being in dancing with each other is that there's a time in my experience during the dancing where everybody is what I call in the beat. Everybody is in the beat. And we're sharing that with each other, and everybody's relating to it in a different way. There's always just very, very different ways that people are moving, but there's a moment where everybody, I can feel connected to everybody. And that sense of being in community, I think, is such an essential nutrient for all of us right now, because I think that part of what the big bad guys want is to make us all feel separate, and on our own. And so having ways that we can collectively be together and actually celebrating that here we are on this incredible planet, and really celebrating that, I think, is also just incredibly valuable. Yeah, so I don't think I'll go through it, but I wanted to make you aware of, some of you already are, but I don't think you are, Michelle, aware of Our basic transformational process we call FACT, and it's facing, accepting, choosing, and taking action. And we have a process, and it's on our website, our foundation website, and we have handouts, but it's basically a way to deal with the overwhelm. So I want to just suggest to each of you, just do just a tiny little run through of it. I'd like you to think of a challenge an environmental challenge that you're aware of, that's sort of in your face, or it's over here. And then I'd like you to let yourself either put it out in front of you or put it out here, and let yourself turn toward it and then turn away from it. And turn toward it, and then the way that you turn away from it, like you get overwhelmed or you get scared or you get sad, and then letting yourself turn toward it and letting yourself tune into what's the most difficult part of this to actually face. And when I turn toward it, what I let myself do then is letting myself just breathe and move and notice what happens as I'm facing it. And we could go into it in more detail, but that facing is, in my opinion, the most difficult for people. If I can just ignore it or pretend it's not happening and kind of go on with life, somebody else will take care of it. I'm kind of like, eh. So when I actually face, then what comes up is accepting. And I was just talking to somebody the other day about the difference between accepting and actually wanting to make a difference. So if I accept it, it doesn't mean I have to like it. But accepting is that this is actually happening. So once I've faced, it's like, oh, this is actually going on. So accepting, like, think of what day is it today? Like yesterday, I got very confused and I thought it was Thursday. So today is Thursday, where we are right now. And so just notice what it's like to accept that today is Thursday. You may not care, or you may not, oh my God, I didn't even realize it's already Thursday. But accepting that today is Thursday is different than, I just hate Thursdays. I always hate Thursday. But accepting allows your nervous system to go, oh, this is real, and I'm in relationship to this. So take a moment to see what's your level of accepting the issue that you've been looking at. Like, oh, I can't stand it. And so accepting that you have feelings about it, and then there may be something else to face. And when you do this, we have you use your whole body doing it. But I just wanted you to get the outline, because I think that doing FACT, I can imagine a whole group doing this, like a group that's that has a gathering, like they're in LA or here in Ojai, and everybody's doing FACT together. So now choosing, let your body just move in some new pleasurable ways. So that part of how we get stuck is our bodies get stuck, our breath gets stuck, and we get kind of, So if you let your body just move in what we call creative joint play, where you're generating some new movements, and in the middle of that, ask yourself, what do I really want? And I know you asked yourself that, Michelle, because you came up with this, this really big idea came out of, what do you really want? You want the communities to be able to do this easily, efficiently. So let yourself tune into, what do you really want? And then notice if your mind goes, oh no, that's ridiculous, or that's not possible. And then come back to, what do you really want? And if you let your body move with it, you really give it some juiciness. And then, of course, the rubber meets the road with taking action. And the action that I want to invite you into is, what's the simplest action that you could take to move what you want forward? And what I like to have people do is to walk around or move around when they're considering taking an action, because when you're moving, particularly if you're moving in what we call essence pace, you can get an idea of, oh, I could invite my neighbor to join me at ecstatic dance, or I could take my neighbor to the store because I know that she doesn't have transportation. So there are little actions that you can take, and when I do that, it restores my sense of my integrity. Because if I'm looking at this going on and I'm not doing anything about it, I feel fundamentally out of alignment and out of integrity with myself. And even when I take a little action, like, when I changed everything over in the house to not having any plastic in the house, and I now have reusable bags that I can send the film, because plastic, the plastic lobby is like, it's like this zombie thing that keeps coming back over and over again, So I have these that actually do get recycled. So I'm always looking for ways that my action actually makes a difference. Whereas, like, we're finding out that some of our recycling is not really getting recycled. So those kinds of things, to make sure that my actions are actually being matched, that's part of what allows me to feel I can enjoy my life and I'm taking actions. So for me, it's also, how can I enjoy my life when it's so awful? But when I'm taking actions, I'm doing FACT and I'm taking those actions, it allows me to go, okay, I'm not only doing what I can do, but I'm also, I believe, modeling and rippling out for other people, that they can take actions too and not just expire in despair. So FACT, I think, is an incredible tool that we can use environmentally. And I'm available. One of my goals is to be able to do FACT with some of the environmental leaders, so that we have that tool that's added in to our toolbox. So that's one of my actions on the forefront, and I'm taking action on that by contacting different people and letting them know I'm available. So, any concluding things that you would like to say, Michelle? I so appreciate your actions, and that you're available to share with us, how we can all join in expanding green by default.
Thank you, Katie. And thank you all. It was really a pleasure to be with you all. And I know I don't know you all individually, but I know you're all doing something to affect positive change. So thank you to each one of you on this call for the part that you're playing with the collective. So thank you all.
Super. All right. And anything else from you all? In addition to, thank you, Michelle, for adding to, the possibilities of us really cherishing, our planet.
I love to start any conference call or end with just acknowledging sacred space and, the earth and all beings, whenever you're in groups. And when I'm outside, I heard from an indigenous person once that the Pachamama herself really likes us to show gratitude for her. And one of the ways you can do that is to just lay something on the ground with reverence and appreciation. Like, I tend to do 4 things, like a stick and a leaf, and a piece of moss, and just have a moment while we're outside just to acknowledge and give back. It's called Anyi, sacred reciprocity. So just to pull it all together.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes. Pachamama. So those of you who don't know about the Pachamama Alliance, it's a wonderful, I'm trained. In fact, I've worked with the leadership of Pachamama, with breath work and, assisting them, supporting the efforts. So Pachamama is a wonderful alliance, and, people gathering together to not only honor the earth, but to bring our indigenous knowledge together with our technical knowledge too. So that's another great resource for people. All right. Well, thank you. And
Thank you, Michelle.
we're going to make this available with all of the different links that people can use. So onward.
Yeah.
Yes. And thank you all. And many blessings.
Thank you so much. Beautiful.
Bye
you.
now.